This is the new 2023 Chevy Corvette Z06.
There will always be a sense of satisfaction in seeing someone become successful in just doing what they love. That's a feeling that Doug DeMuro's fans know very well, as only in a matter of a couple of years, he passed from being a common car enthusiast sharing videos on YouTube to becoming a big name in the automotive industry and a successful businessman. Although there are no doubts about Doug's popularity and achievement, there are indeed many questions about how he became so accomplished in such a vastly competitive field as the automotive industry. So how did Doug become so knowledgeable about cars, and what exactly did he do to grow such a massive audience online? Stay with us to know all about Doug's beginnings, educational background, family, past projects, current businesses, and everything else which has resulted in DeMuro's successful empire. Everyone starts somewhere, and for Doug DeMuro, it was a matter of having a great idea at the right time. Doug's first feature in a car-related platform was back in 2009 when he wrote an article in the Motor Trend Group-owned magazine, Automobile. While that was a great start for a 21-year-old man who loved cars, there was still a long way to go for Doug. He eventually graduated with a bachelor's degree from the Atlanta-based Emory University and was soon hired at the local Porsche headquarters, where he managed vehicle allocations. At the same time, Doug published several articles on the successful site autotrader.com. Despite having a great time at Porsche, financially and professionally, Doug soon felt that it wasn't a fulfilling job, and in January 2013, risked it all by quitting his job and submitting an article for The Truth About Cars, unexpectedly receiving positive reviews for his hilarious style. Keeping that good-humored tone for the rest of his reviews on the site proved to be the right move for Doug, landing him a stable columnist job on the popular autoblog Jalopnik only a couple of months later. Doug also took advantage of his seemingly increasingly popularity online to start his own first blog, Plays with Cars. Doug DeMuro's time working for Jalopnik was life-changing. While he was surely growing a loyal audience through his columns on a variety of car-centered websites, it was Jalopnik on which he wrote the most famous reviews of his early career, gaining features in other big platforms such as Business Insider and CNBC for his original and witty humor. At the time, Doug became known as the man who bought cars to write reviews, an out-of-the-box but successful method of making himself known in the field. There was no denying that Doug had taken his career in the right direction back then, reaching the first landmark of his career when he published his first book, Plays with Cars, in 2013, followed that same year by From My Perspective. The next year, Doug released Bumper to Bumper, a book filled with the best and most detailed car stories he had lived with by then. Besides becoming a published author, Doug crossed the limits of the auto-centered online blogs to be featured in important newspapers such as the Atlanta Constitution. Doug DeMuro's early career was filled with several remarkable moments. One, if not the most unforgettable, was his nightmarish but entertaining one-year-long Ferrari adventure. In 2014, Doug bought a 2004 Ferrari 360 Modena, a car he had dreamed of owning since he was a kid, but which soon became more of a disappointment than a joy. Even though Doug needed a loan to afford such a luxurious car, his main motivation wasn't to show off, but to test himself on how much of a big deal owning a Ferrari was. Despite his initial positive attitude, the Ferrari proved to be exhausting to own, given all the unasked attention it attracted from people everywhere. The car was also very expensive to keep, costing him over $1,000 per maintenance season only. On top of all that, Doug admitted having miscalculated the lack of daily drive characteristics of the Ferrari, describing it as a toy to be played with in a Jalopnik column he wrote at the time. Doug's complaints about his Ferrari were eyebrow-raising, but entertaining to read, gaining him the attention of platforms such as Business Insider and BuzzFeed, which partially covered his struggles with the car. Doug sold the Ferrari 360 in 2015, claiming to have no regrets about it, but it surely was a notable moment in his career, despite the difficulties it brought him. Doug DeMuro's success on YouTube happened suddenly and unexpectedly, at least from his perspective. Despite sharing car-related videos on the platform from 2013, that content was initially planned to accompany his written pieces, not to take the center spot of his presence online. Nonetheless, Doug's career has been full of welcomed realizations, and this was no exception. In mid-2016, he noticed that his writing wasn't doing that well number-wise. Meanwhile, his very rare YouTube content was doubling and sometimes attracting thrice more views compared to it. It wasn't difficult to do the math and realize that video content was the change his career needed at the time. Coincidentally, that year, Doug became editor-in-chief of Oversteer, a blog born from autotrader.com and which allowed him to explore his car content creativity with barely any limitations. That also cleared the path for other ideas to come Doug's way, as he stopped reviewing cars he owned and started talking about his friends' cars in his videos, obtaining great responses from his YouTube subscribers. The change of content was prompted by repeated complaints from the audience about Doug's bragging attitude, as he admitted in a 2018 video. That was the definitive start of Doug's very successful career as a YouTube creator, yet more great things would come his way in the following years. Doug DeMuro is one of the few lucky people in the world whose job requires him to drive and test lots of cars, just to have something to write about. The beginning of his career was marked by the cars he bought and continuously reviewed, such as the infamous Ferrari 360 he owned for a year and which gained him his first wave of internet virality. In the following years, Doug purchased a wide variety of cars, which he wrote about for as long as there was a reason for it, such as a $45,000 Aston Martin Vantage he used as a daily ride for a couple of months. The car proved to be a great purchase for its thousands of dollars worth of warranty, unlike the Ferrari, but he eventually sold it. When Doug changed his content to focus on other people's rides, he got his hands on several great cars. Some of the most famous and popular included the supercar Bugatti Chiron, though reviews of more common affordable cars such as the 2002 BMW M5 became very popular in his channel as well. His increasing experience with a wide variety of cars pushed him to create the Doug score, which he uses to categorize and compare cars against each other regardless of their type, usage, manufacturer, or time on the market. To date, hundreds of cars have been tested under the Doug score and is one of his most popular inventions. As admitted by Doug in a 2018 video, for a couple of years he didn't treat his YouTube content as more than a hobby. He only realized that it had become a full job when he went to Minnesota during his 2016 countrywide trip in his Aston Martin, and hundreds of people showed up. Having in his mind that he had a future in the field, Doug's online audience only increased with time, slowly but surely gaining followers who remained loyal to him even after he rebranded his content to common and affordable cars. In 2018, he opened his secondary channel, More Doug DeMuro, which allows him to connect with his audience in a more personal, in-depth way. Nowadays, Doug has gained 4.6 million subscribers on his primary channel and over $750,000 on the secondary one, but his success hasn't stopped there. In 2017, Doug debuted on TV in the episode Larger Than Life in the highly popular automotive show Jay Leno's Garage. A second appearance in the show in 2019 saw Doug invited to review Leno's McLaren F1. While Doug DeMuro continues actively sharing reviews on his YouTube channel, he's already turned the page on other aspects of his career. In 2016, he ceased being a regular Jalopnik columnist, and his blog on autotrader.com suffered a similar fate a couple of years later. The reason for leaving the platforms, which gained Doug his earliest traces of internet fame, was logical. Creating regular YouTube content became Doug's main focus around the time he left Jalopnik. Meanwhile, he left his column in autotrader.com at the time when he began working on Cars and Bids, his auction website which doesn't list cars built before 1981. Regarding his reasons to start such a particular business, Doug told Top Speed that it was all about expanding his access to great cars he could talk about. I love doing those videos, so it was this perfect ability to review these cool cars that I want to do anyway and still make financial sense, he said. According to 2023 reports, Cars and Bids customers had spent over $230 million in car purchases since the website's inception, and its growth seems unstoppable. Early in the year, the business founded by Doug DeMuro sold $37 million in shares to the US-based investment firm, the Chernin Group, impressively taking Cars and Bids to the next level. Despite selling a big part of the company, Doug is still deeply involved with it and doesn't plan on saying goodbye to the project, as he affirmed in an interview with Forbes in early 2023. Looking back at the first years of Doug's career as a 9-to-5 worker at Porsche, then as a columnist and YouTuber by mere chance, it's really impressive how far he's come to being a very successful businessman through and through. Nonetheless, though Doug DeMuro will surely keep building his automotive empire in the near future, there's no doubt that he's just the same old hilarious and very creative man who charmed his internet audience so many years ago.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos, which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.